Welcome back, true believers and newcomers alike. This is the Gauntlet, episode 5. This is our podcast series for the YouTube channel, Fan of Steel. Thank you guys for joining us. I am the Fan of Steel, and today I'm joined by Z, the Pirate Girl.
What's up, y'all?
And we're actually doing a really special video today. This is going to be a little bit different than usual. I guess not too unusual. But because it is going to be a movie review, but it's not going to be for a fandom. This is actually going to be for The Lion King 2019, the brand new. I don't really know what you would call this because it's not live action.
I mean, it's yeah. And Disney is a fandom, so it is technically a fandom.
Well,
do you not
realize
all the Disney nerds
it's
out
not
there?
It's not our typical It's not our typical fandoms. It's not like Marvel and DC. It's
That's
different.
true,
but
yeah.
So,
but I mean, it's along. The animals looked real, so it's along the lines of the.
Yeah, but these are.
Quote.
It's one of the. It's one of the many of the Disney remakes that they've been doing. So, I mean, I guess the first thing to say, guys, is while this would be considered a spoiler review because we're going to talk about everything, because of the nature of this movie, it's not very different.
If you've seen Lion King, then you've seen this,
right? So the only way that this would be that there would be any spoilers in this is if you have never seen the original Lion King. And if you've never seen the original Lion King, then who are you? I'm trying to think of if there's even anybody I know that hasn't ever seen it. I'm sure there are some people out there, but anybody who is of age probably will have known that. So we're going to be talking about everything, but I guess I'll just go ahead and say that out there because I don't want people in the comment section saying that we've spoiled stuff for you. So we are going to be talking about everything. And since we've mentioned that, I guess just differences between this one and the original. What are some things that really stood out to you as far as like differences?
Well, before we even get into that,
uh-oh.
So I had seen this meme on Facebook that was like, if they don't get that first nah right, I'm walking out of the theater. And what they did, because, the first one opens up with the sun rising on the horizon.
Yeah, that's the very first thing.
And it starts with the song. This one starts with a view of the savannah or whatever it is. And they make you wait about 10 seconds before the sun comes up. And you could hear a pin drop. And the theater was full. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in there because people were waiting to see if they got it right. And they did. So I guess that can lead into the differences. So the song...
They did it better than I did.
The opening song... Yes, they did. The opening song was really similar to the first one. It was basically the same thing. But you can tell...
It was 100% the same.
It was the same singer, but there were definitely a few minor differences. So you could tell that it was like they just re-recorded it. But it was the same song. It was the same lady singer singing it. It was the same dude that did the beginning part. But if you pay attention, you can tell that there were some little tiny, tiny differences. So, but other than that, it was the same, and I think it needed to be. That whole opening scene didn't need to change.
No, I mean, I wouldn't argue with anybody if someone came to me and said, I think that the opening scene of The Lion King is the best opening scene in any animated movie. I would have a hard time arguing with them.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really would, like, just because it really is pretty much spot on perfect. I have a hard time. I really would have a hard time disputing that. So it really is pretty much verbatim the same. There is
one critical scene.
One critical. Oh no,
that is not in this one,
and it didn't need to be.
It did need to be in there because it was hilarious.
Guys, we're gonna mightily disagree on this.
All right. So
let's get into it. Let's just do it.
When Scar tells Simba to run after, the one really tragic scene, he tells Simba to run.
After the gorge scene.
He tells the hyenas to go chase after him.
Right.
And in the animated film, they do And
Yes.
2 or 3 of the hyenas stop at the edge, and then I think the special one runs into them, and it pushes them into the briar patch. At the
only
bottom.
one of them, right?
I thought it was either way. It's been a minute since I've seen the old one. Regardless, hyenas ended up in the briar patch, and that was hilarious. And when I watched The Lion King, which I loved The Lion King so much as a child that I wore out our first VHS tape of it, and we had to buy another one.
Wow, VHS.
Right. But
Some of y'all don't know what that is.
Every time it came to that scene, I made my mom rewind it about 5 times because it was hysterical.
Because you have a sadistic sense of humor.
And that scene was not in this movie, and
it
I was
didn't need to be.
horrifically disappointed.
It didn't need to be.
Horrifically.
It was as close to it as it needed
No,
to be.
they
Yes.
flat cut it out.
No,
and
they didn't.
They
They
cut
didn't
the
cut it
bramble.
out.
They cut the bramble scene out.
They did not cut it out.
Nobody landed in the bramble bushes.
Okay,
and they needed
look,
to.
No. The one hyena fell off. They just didn't do the whole
That
animated
wasn't the same.
comical
Nobody even
jump
cares
up,
about that.
Jump up, grab your butt because there's got thorns in it.
Well, and he was picking out brambles out of his behind later on too. It was
okay,
hilarious.
yes, I know, but that's there.
That needed to be there.
That wouldn't really work in this.
Hey, they can pick brambles off of themselves.
Look, I like the animated one just as much as anybody else. Maybe not just as much, but I do enjoy it. I really appreciate the original one. But that scene works for the original and works for an animated context.
It would have worked in this too.
It
Anyway,
didn't
they
need
left
it.
that
It didn't
scene
need
out
it.
entirely. That was
And whenever Simba walks away, you look to the side, and you can see that he's walking through a briar bush.
okay, who cares? The hyenas didn't land in the bramble bush.
It probably
And so-
did. It just killed him like it would normally. Like in real life, the hyena obviously just died. He croaked.
Well, that's less funny.
Well, it's not really the big criticism that I will give this movie,
It was very serious.
the toning, the tone of the movie, was like they weren't really sure what to do with it because
It wasn't a cartoon anymore.
well, exactly. So
Like, I honestly don't know if I had a child. I don't know if I would take my child to see it.
this one,
Necessarily. Like, I'd buy it at home and let him watch it, but I don't know if I'd take my child to the theater to see it because, you know, there was kids in there and they were like fussing and talking the entire time because
well,
it's
that's
not
a different issue.
It's not, well,
entirely.
but my point is it's not interesting to a child. Because, you know, the one in the 90s, you know, they sing, you know, I just can't wait to be king. And you've got the animals, and they're in these patterns, and there's all the colors, and there's all this stuff going
It's very
on.
flashy.
Because it's not just him in the savannah. But they're not doing that in this because they're making it more, minus the fact it's talking animals, obviously, they're making it more realistic.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as engaging. It's not a kid movie, in my opinion.
There was, well, and the color palette is definitely darker.
Yeah, well,
It's
real.
more realistic, and the tone felt more like it felt truer to what the original material of Lion King is because I mean Lion King in and of itself is just a ripoff of Hamlet.
Yeah.
And so it felt a little bit more like a tragedy.
Yeah, I was going to say a dramedy. Yeah,
It felt like
there were funny parts.
It had the tone of a Shakespearean tragedy. Mm-hmm. It really did. But there were still some uneven moments in the tone.
Yeah.
Like,
well, okay, because there was that. Well, we're off topic on differences now. So, but there were, there was some fourth wall breaks.
those were good.
But that didn't
They're
make...
funny, but they didn't fit.
But exactly, they didn't fit because, they sit there... They have the scene where, Simba goes with Timon and Pumbaa and where he's walking across the bridge or whatever and you see him growing up and it's supposed to be like a time lapse. And at the end
Which
of that...
was spot on from the original.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. But they get to the end of the song and what's his name? Simba wants to keep singing and Pumbaa goes, "Come on, man, you gained 400 pounds since we started."
Right, leave them wanting more. The audience, yeah, they did a very obvious, very... I'll say that I liked it. I liked it because it was funny and I like fourth wall breaks in movies.
But it didn't...
But tonally, it did not fit at all.
And then when Pumbaa was going to be
when they were doing the live bait thing.
Yeah.
Be our guest. That was one of the best nods
So, okay.
I've ever seen in movies. But again,
for those
tonally,
who don't,
it did not fit.
For those who don't remember in the first one, Pumbaa, when Simba comes back to the Pride Lands and he sees everything as a wreck, they needed some sort of a distraction so he could get up to Pride Rock. So they go and decide to use Pumbaa, Timon and Pumbaa as the distraction. So Timon dresses up in like this
like
little fruity, like a hula tiki woman, yeah. And he acts like he's gonna sacrifice Pumbaa. Well, because
he's got the apple in his mouth and everything.
Because we're politically correct nowadays, they feel like they thought they couldn't get away with that. And it's also not a cartoon.
I don't know if it was so much that as just it just wouldn't.
I felt like it was a political thing. But
I don't think it was.
Either way, in this one, do you want to explain what they did?
Well, they basically just ripped off of the Beauty and the Beast and just did the Timon. They started to go into that, and then of course the hyenas start chasing them.
Yeah, Timon pops up, and it's the little opening lines from Lumiere, "Ladies and gentlemen, blah 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 blah," and I was like, "No way!" And
I thought that was very funny.
It was funny considering their animals.
Great little nod.
They would have zero idea about Beauty and the Beast. But yeah, I don't know.
It was a nice little wink to everybody of haha Disney. Mm-hmm. We all never sing.
But I guess as far as other differences go, okay, so I really liked Beyonce voicing Nala, but that of course means that Beyonce was going to also sing her part in "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?"
And her songs were very Beyonce.
And Beyonce was very over the top, like it's a '90s film. Music back then was not what it is now, and I'm not saying it has to be exactly the same, but the guy who was voicing Simba just sang his part.
Donald
Glover. Donald Glover, yes.
Which he is also a singer.
Yes.
He's done
Childish
some
Gambino.
He's very versatile. I mean, we've seen him. I have not watched Atlanta, but I know that's one of the things that he's very well known for is that series. I know him best for his stand-up comedy, and then of course he played a character who ends up becoming the Prowler in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
But he just sang his part, and Beyonce was
job.
Adding all these runs
all
and
the
riffs,
flourishes,
the runs and riffs to it. Which an occasional one, I'm like, okay, it's Beyonce, I expect that.
But
every single verse, it was like every other word she was doing that. It felt like,
became distracting.
It did because there were so many of them, and I started
counting them.
Yeah.
I'm like, another Beyonce-ish, another Beyonce-ism, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was too much. There was too many.
Voicing the character was great.
And knowing music, because I have a music degree, for those who don't know, less is more in a way. You don't want to overuse something like that, because then it's boring and people are like, oh, great, again. And that's what it kind of felt like with this.
Well, and I don't know. I'm not going to be too harsh on it because I don't really care for Beyonce as a singer much anyway.
Shots fired.
Well, I mean, that's just not my taste.
You're going to get snakes all over your page now.
I probably will. But I don't know. That is not my personal preference.
I liked her singing. I just didn't like all the flourishes on it. It was just too much.
She has a nice sounding voice. It's just the way her style of singing is not my cup of tea.
They did have, though, when Mufasa runs back to the Pride Lands, in the first one,
James Earl Jones coming back as Mufasa.
Yeah.
Which was perfect.
That was, of course, yeah. They would not have been, nobody would have watched it if he hadn't done that.
I would have. I still would have.
People would have boycotted it. But
people boycott things.
When Simba's running back to the Pride Lands, they did just have some instrumental music in the first one, and they had a exclusive song that Beyonce did. That was okay. I kind of liked that.
Yeah,
it made sense to have that.
You know what I missed? We didn't get the "Life's Not Fair" Simba line.
You're right.
We didn't get "Life's Not Fair" Simba.
You're right.
We didn't get that.
I
missed having that line.
That's iconic.
You know what?
Too.
I also really like that since they were going for a more realistic tone, that whenever that Mufasa is talking to Simba from the clouds, it wasn't like an obvious lion face.
Right, like it was in the old one.
It was just like streaks of lightning that made it look kind of like a lion. It's like, oh yeah, that kind of looked like you could kind of see it.
But see, that made more sense for it to be like that in the other one, because Rafiki was more of a witch doctory kind of person.
And you know what? I'm glad they toned that back.
And Rafiki was very, very in the background on this one.
Okay, I want to say something else. I never really thought about this, but I actually watched a reviewer. He's a YouTuber actor on here. I'll just go ahead and give him by name, Tyrone Magnus. Shout out to Tyrone Magnus, who is he's a black guy, and I never realized this, but he brought this up. He mentioned the fact that one thing that always bothered him about the original Lion King was how the only character that had an African accent was Rafiki.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's a dang monkey. And I was like, oh my goodness. You know, I never really thought of that. But I was like, wow, okay. And so I had listened to him say that before I went and watched this. So I was actually paying attention to that, like, okay, how are they going to handle Rafiki in this? And I really appreciated the way that they did handle Rafiki, and that they did kind of scale back some of that stuff, but still, you know, but he was still the Rafiki that we knew, but he wasn't like...
He was less prominent.
He was less prominent.
There was less magic.
And it wasn't like he was being a caricature of something.
Yeah.
And I can see how, like I said, I had never thought of that before.
Yeah,
and,
I hadn't either.
And again, shout out to Tyrone Magnus for bringing that up and bringing some awareness to that, because that was never something that I had noticed. But now that he said that and he brought that to my attention, I was like, oh, okay. And so I appreciated that they did something different with that.
Well, and speaking of less magic, in the other one, in the original, you know, Simba's kind of struggling with who he is and stuff like that, and he flops down, and this, you know, fluff or whatever comes up from the ground.
Oh no, we're getting into the Disney.
And floats over to Rafiki, and then Rafiki's like, Simba! You know, and stuff like that, because of this magic, like, flower and plant crap that floats over to him.
I didn't know what they were going to do with that whole thing.
In this one, he does still flop down, and a tuft of fur falls off of his mane. And you see the tuft of fur kind of travel through some stuff. You know, at one point a bird picks it up and puts it in its nest, and then the bird partner picks it out of the nest and flings it on the ground.
No, not in my house, you know.
It ends up on a leaf, a giraffe eats it, and then it fades to black. And then it comes back in, and you see a dung beetle with his poop ball, and the fur is stuck to the poop ball. And I'm like, okay.
At that point, I was like, they really better be going somewhere with this.
Because it did not seem to fit. Because it didn't seem to fit with what was happening.
No.
But the dung beetle falls off a cliff, the poop ball breaks, a leaf cutter ant picks up, or the fuzz breaks free, a leaf cutter ant
off into the wind,
picks up the thing, like all the other ants have leaves, and he picks up the fur. They go up into Rafiki's tree. Rafiki sees the fur, picks it up, and that's how he comes to the conclusion that Simba is alive. Now, the chances of that happening that exact way are slim, but at least it's a more natural process,
right,
and not magic. But it's also Disney, and Disney movies are supposed to have a little magic.
But it still kind of bothered me a little bit, because the only thing I could think of was, dear Lord, please don't let him sniff it or lick it. Because that has been in giraffe dung. Like, please. So, I don't really know how you do that scene in a great way. I guess the way they did it is fine.
Yeah,
but it was still weird.
It was weird, but because Rafiki was not as prominent and the magic as a whole wasn't as prominent, they couldn't do it the way that they did it before.
You know, one of the big things that I noticed as far as differences? The amount of cute baby animals that they added to the movie.
Because when he goes and sings, I Just Can't Wait to Be King.
And all the baby animals come around.
You see all these different types of baby animals. Baby
hippo,
cheetahs, hippos.
Baby cheetahs. Baby cheetahs.
Baby cheetahs.
Expound on the cheetahs.
Baby cheetahs, baby hippos, baby rhinos. Little birds. There was some kind of little birds.
There were some baby ostriches. There were...
antelopes.
Yes.
Everything.
Every kind of African animal... they babyfied.
It was so cute. And they were just dancing with... elephant. They were just dancing with him. They were singing too.
They had their mouths moving and they were singing.
It was so cute. Oh my goodness.
The best part of the movie, for me, Baby Timon. Baby Pumbaa. Baby Pumbaa. Baby Pumbaa was the best part. That cute little pig.
Because they go into where, he first meets Timon and Pumbaa. They're
when
doing
I was a young warthog.
Yeah. And they show him, because in the original, Pumbaa just looks the same. Because he's like, when
exactly
I was a young
and
warthog.
That bothered me.
And they talk about his gas issues. In this one, this little baby warthog comes out stage right. And it was so cute. And he sits in his water. He sits in his little watering hole, and a butterfly lands on his nose, and he's so happy. And then he does this most atrocious fart, and the butterfly falls off of his nose and dies. And he was just looking at it like it was so sad. But that was the cutest little
pig. And it was
pig.
kind of sad. It was like, oh, poor little Pumbaa. Mm-hmm. You know what? The other thing that I really liked was that it felt... It did feel like there were more stakes at the end of the movie, and I think the thing that caused that was the fact that it wasn't just Simba fighting for Pride Rock.
It was everyone.
It really became like an actual battle between the lions and the hyenas and Simba and Scar.
Well, and I feel like that's what it was before, because I remember Timon and Pumbaa fighting, and I remember Rafiki fighting, but it wasn't this big, like, the lionesses charged towards the hyenas, and I immediately thought of Civil War when, or not Civil War, Endgame, when the Avengers go up on Thanos' army. That's exactly what it looked like. And that was really interesting to me. So yeah, you do get to see a little more of the fight, but I mean, it's a fight for their lives at that point.
It was more prominent, and it felt like it felt better.
It was a fight for their lives and their freedom. So,
by the way, Scar,
I don't know.
Awesome. I loved him.
I liked the voice actor. I wish there had been a little more difference in appearances. Because he's like skinnier than Mufasa and Simba. He's a little scraggly looking. But when him and Simba go to fight at the end, there's not a lot of physical difference between them.
I also liked that they gave him a little bit more character development. And they actually explained, because you never really find out for sure why there is this rivalry between Mufasa and Scar. I mean, you kind of assume.
Yeah.
But we find out that our assumptions are true, that Scar wanted to rule. But not only that, he wanted...
Sarabi.
Sarabi. He wanted to be with Sarabi. But because he lost the fight...
He fought Mufasa for it. Like, what would happen in real life.
And that's why he got his scar.
Yeah, that's what would happen in real life. That's how he got his scar. And, he makes note of the fact that Sarabi kept rejecting him from Mufasa. So I think she didn't like him to begin with. But
no. I mean, well, but there was also the thing...
In the animal world, yeah, she would have just went with whoever won. But I don't think Sarabi actually liked him. Because they do personalize them a little.
They humanize them, yes. They do humanize them. So there was that. But that also sets it up for, I mean, just his whole motivation in general. Right. He feels cheated. He's felt like he's been cheated out of his entire life.
Yeah.
He's been cheated out of what he wanted what he wanted in life. He was cheated out of the woman he wanted to be with, and it was all because of Mufasa in his mind. And he was even cheated out of, physically, because he was given that great big scar.
The scar wouldn't matter. Chicks dig scars. He's the one who let himself go and look all scruffy like that.
Oh, well, he's just sitting
Mufasa would have let him live a normal life. He's the one who caused it.
But, I mean, and that's a good picture of what bitterness actually does to a person's life. When you let it consume you, and then you have stuff like that, you have that good picture.
Yeah. The voices were pretty comparable.
Like Chiwetel Ejiofor did a great job. Shout out to him. He did a great job as Scar. I like
the voice of Zazu. He sounded how Zazu is supposed to sound.
And
the kid who voiced Kid Simba sounded exactly like Kid Simba. Especially when they did I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Yeah, it was almost spot on.
He did a great job.
It was awesome.
He did a great job. And he had a lot of lines, too.
Oh, he did. And a lot of singing. He had, I would almost say more lines than adult Simba.
Yeah, he had a good bit on his plate to take care of.
And obviously Mufasa was the same. My only other complaint, minus the Bramblebush scene, is that they didn't bring back Whoopi Goldberg as one of the hyenas. Because that was
I liked more what they did with the hyenas this time.
I do too, but I still wish we had her, because she is what really made those hyenas, and she did a good job.
I don't know. I don't think she would have fit, because they were the hyenas in and of themselves were a little bit more wacky. A little bit, they were doing the original Lion King was doing a Three Stooges nod.
But Whoopi Goldberg's hyena was the serious one, which in this movie in this movie would have been Key from Key and Peele. So Key voiced one of the hyenas. That would have been Whoopi Goldberg's, and I feel like it still would have worked, because they still had some zingers and stuff like that in there.
The alpha of the group was a female. It was a female.
It was, but the character, it's obviously the same character.
Who voiced her.
It's obviously the same character. Keys is supposed to be Whoopi Goldberg's, because there was a lot more hyenas than just the 3 this time,
which helped the movie.
Yeah, it made it really feel more like a taking sides kind of thing.
It did, and it felt like there was, again, it built more into the stakes.
We first really see the hyenas when they go to the elephant graveyard. Key's hyena is the one that comes forward and tries to make his little speech. So he is still the leader of his little group of hyenas.
Of those 3.
Of those few. Yeah. And so that's why I say that would have been what Whoopi Goldberg did. I don't know. She just did a really good job. And all the other characters were comparable to the original voice actors. And so I was really missing that element. But, you know.
I can see it. Like I say, I was fine with it the way they did it, but I can see your point.
Another change they made, so Rafiki did not have his stick at all for the longest time. Even when he leads Simba to be like, I know who you are, and stuff like that. And I was like, what the heck, man? Like, Rafiki doesn't have his stick, and he bapped him on the head and did all this other stuff. Well, when things start to finally go down, where they're like, all right, we're going to take back the Pride Lands.
They're going down for real now.
They come up and they show Rafiki, and he's doing his stuff. And then he, reaches into this little crevice in the tree, and he pulls out his stick, and he goes, hello, old friend. And I was like, yes!
Awesome. That was awesome.
It was.
And he goes to war, and he just starts using that thing like a club.
Pumbaa, man!
Pumbaa was great. Pumbaa got some love.
Pumbaa got, they started to bully him, and he's like, nobody! What did he say? Nobody calls me... fat,
chubby. It was
nobody calls me chubby or fat or whatever, and he goes to town on those hyenas.
I won't. He said some kind of a line. I'm trying to remember what it was, but
he'll run away from stuff, but he won't run away from a bully.
I won't run away from a bully, which I thought was, because you are appealing to kids, I thought that was a great little line to put in there, of not running away from a bully.
And so he charges and, butts all these hyenas out of the way, but he kept doing it. After he got some confidence.
Yeah, even after, you feel better. Awesome. I feel great, man. I love that
and you just see Pumbaa running around in the background,
just tusking
these little hyenas.
Just charging them.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I felt like I did feel like they were, while they still humanized the characters, I felt like they did a really good job, and this was a key thing they needed to do because they were making them look like real animals. They did a good job of giving all of the characters traits that the actual animals do have. Yeah. Like Timon doing his little scratch on his hand.
Yeah.
Like meerkats actually do. Mm-hmm. And just the way that they behaved and the way that they moved and everything. Which, let's get in, the elephant in the room. The graphics.
Oh, yeah. They looked like real animals.
They looked,
And it looked like real, like if animals could talk, that's how it looked. It wasn't like, here's an animal and we made its mouth move. Like
we got with the bad 2000s movies like Garfield and stuff.
Yeah, it looked like if animals actually had speaking capability.
Yeah, not just weird mouth movements.
Yes.
It fit. And you know what? We'll get into the rankings here in just a little bit because I think we're almost done with this. We've covered pretty much everything. But while this may not be, in my opinion, as good as the original, it's good. But the biggest thing with this is that Jon Favreau himself, whenever the movie opened, he said there's only one shot, not one scene, but one still shot that was not computer generated. Can you tell me which one it was? I can't
Maybe the opening scene in the beginning.
I have a feeling like it may be in that opening scene somewhere.
Because it was a pretty still shot.
But it's one shot. And the rest of this movie is completely CGI.
It looks real.
It looks great.
The animals look very real.
The animals look great.
Oh, the beetle when he was chasing the little horn beetle.
That was awesome.
And that's what I mean. Like they really did. It was borderline a shot for shot remake of the original. You know, in the original he chases this little horn beetle. Now I think the beetle was blue in the original. They made it be the correct. They made it be the correct color in this one, but they still made sure. Hey, he chased a horn beetle. We're gonna make sure he chases a horn beetle now. The whole thing was just, it was like a shot for shot remake. And I'm like, that is my biggest beef with these live action movies. They change too much. Like Mulan is going to be terrible.
Oh no, we're not going to get into that.
We're not, but Mulan's going to be awful because they've changed so much. And it's not the original story.
Get out.
But Lion King, the things that they changed made sense. It's like Ready Player One, you know, book to movie translation. They had to change some stuff, and the things they changed cinematically made sense, and that's what it was in this.
Well, and this Lion King is 30 minutes longer than the original Lion King.
Yeah.
So they added in little bits here and there.
Yeah, because that dumb scene with the fur, that took like 15 minutes.
I also like the fact that, you know, Timon and Pumbaa's little hideaway area, there are other animals that are there. It's kind of like an outcast village.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was nice. That was neat.
And you can really see like how they're kind of working together and all the different ways that they're living with the bugs and things like that, which is really cool.
They've got an interesting harmony.
The Lion Sleeps Tonight. That was a much better rendition.
Oh my
because
goodness.
All the animals started to join in that were over there, and it was good.
They got you on that jump there though.
Because they're singing, and then that's when Nala comes out because she finds him. But it's in the middle of it. Like, he starts in on that harmony, and it starts to hit you right in the sweet spot. It starts to hit you in the sweet spot, and then BAM! There's Nala, and I'm like, crap. It was bad. But it was great. I mean,
effects and everything. So, while this movie did not do anything revolutionary on its story, and it was basically just a shot-for-shot remake, this, I'm telling you guys right now, and y'all pretty much already know this, but this is a piece of cinematic history.
It was great.
Just like the original Lion King was, this is another step, and we're starting to see this more and more. We saw it with The Jungle Book, and then we saw it earlier this year with Alita Battle Angel, with a lot of CGI and stuff, and then now we're seeing Lion King, where the entire movie, except for one shot, not one scene, not one segment, one single frame shot. That's it. That's the only thing that was not CG in this movie, and you can't tell.
Yep, it was super good.
I mean, we're getting close to bridging the gap in that uncanny valley. Mm-hmm. Really, the only thing that CG can't do is make us where we recognize, okay, I can't tell if that's an actual human or not. Like,
you can still kind of tell, but
you can still tell. But even like Alita Battle Angel, you get into some really good stuff, and we're seeing it more. Like we saw it with Endgame, how they did with Tony.
Yeah,
making him look really, really gaunt and skinny, and with Thanos, we're seeing major leaps with CGI, and right at the front of it is Disney.
Oh yeah, of course. Disney is always.
And now they have Avatar, which we're going to be getting Avatar 2 apparently in 2020.
Speaking
December
of which,
2020.
since it's tradition to get off on a rabbit trail, I found out right after we got out of Lion King that Avengers Endgame beat Avatar in the box office.
Avengers Endgame, number one.
As I predicted.
And you guys, if you guys are following me on my Facebook page, which if you're not, you need to get over there and check that out, because I try to be very active on there. I try to put up one post a day, But I put that up last night as soon as I found out about it. Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
Barely.
Doesn't matter.
Barely.
No, it's not barely.
Over.
Barely is like $20. It was $500,000.
That's still barely for
it
a
still
movie.
did.
That's still
and
barely
considering
for a
how
movie.
much of a niche market it is, I
But
mean,
it's
that's pretty good. So, yep,
Avengers
called it.
Endgame
You were
it.
skeptical.
I
Anyway,
was skeptical.
It still beat it, but that's a podcast for another day.
Well, yeah, because Marvel Phase 4, they released the San Diego Comic-Con, they showed the slate for Marvel Phase 4. But it's astonishing to me everything that they are able to do with CGI now. It's really just remarkable. I guess final thoughts for me. Basically, this movie is nothing you haven't already seen. If you're looking for something great as far as story, this is not going to be anything new. And because of the way that it is, with it being a live action lookalike, that's what I'll call it because it's not live action. Some of the plot holes and issues with the original Lion King that don't work, like why are people listening to Scar and stuff like that. Some little things that that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. They're stretching there. It is a little bit more prominent in this because you're not suspending as much disbelief as you are with animation that looks like animation. While there is that, this is still a really good movie.
It was really good.
This is really good, and it is a worthy successor to Lion King. It does live up to the Lion King name. Definitely better than Lion King 1.5.
I was thinking that exact same thing. No, Lion King 2 wasn't bad. Lion King 1.5. Lion King 1.5 though. I think Lion King 2 was a straight to video, and that's when Disney went. Anyway,
Lion King 1.5 was too.
Lion King 1.5 was just bad. Lion King 1.5 was the worst.
Lion King 1.
2 was okay. 1 was obviously the best one, but yeah, no, I'd probably give it like an 8.5.
Oh, we're great. We're gonna go ahead and grade you. 8.
Oh, sorry. I thought that's where we're going with that. Yeah, no.
That was where I was going. I was gonna get your final thoughts first.
Yeah, no, 8.5. I mean, it was basically a shot-for-shot remake, which I like. And they did have, because I was thinking...
For you purists, you will very much like this.
I was just thinking, man, are they going to do, I just can't wait to be king, because they aren't going to have the graphics and everything. And they did a really good job. It was a good replacement. So, yeah, 8.5. It's good.
For me, I would give the original Lion King an 8.5. This one, I would give it a 7.5. For me. I'm a little bit more harsh on my ratings, I guess, because I know some people would give the original Lion King a 10 out of 10. For me, I would say it's 8.5. That brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, just real quick, wrapping it up. As of right now, the Lion King, critically, is, it is sitting at a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, critically. Having watched the movie, while I give it a 7.5, I would definitely not give it that low of a rating.
No.
I can see, looking at this movie from a critic's standpoint, I can see why it has 54%. I think that is a little bit harsh. And as a fan, obviously I give it a 7.5. But one of the biggest strengths of the movie is also its biggest weakness. The fact that it is a shot-for-shot remake. And as a critic, when you're watching a movie, that's not what you want to see. You want to see it do something new. You don't want to go... You don't want to see the exact same movie. And this is the safest out of all of the Disney remakes. Even The Jungle Book took some risks in some of the things that it changed.
Yeah, like Kaa being a woman. Don't even get me started on that, though.
Scarlett Johansson was a great Kaa. That was one of the best parts of that movie.
No.
You haven't even watched it.
I've seen that part, and it was terrible.
You haven't watched the movie. Don't say anything until you've seen it.
I won't watch it.
No. Not allowed to say until you've seen it.
Whatever.
You can't say anything if you haven't seen it.
Bottom line, I'm of the thought process, if you're gonna remake it, don't change a bunch of stuff.
But that's part of the... Okay, This is where the being a comic book fan really comes, has a great benefit, because I am used to Elseworlds stories and what ifs and different continuities and multiverses.
I hate that.
To me, remakes, that's all it is. Because if you change something in this Lion King, like say Nala dies in this Lion King, or
Well, that's a good enough example.
Something like that, something really radically different. Okay, that's fine. If I don't like that, guess what? I still have the original Lion King where Nala didn't die. Remaking something or rebooting something is fine with me. I do have the sacred trio of movies that I say never remake and never touch. I have those. But generally, I'm good with reboots because it's an Elseworld story to me. And I've still got the original. You're not doing anything, you're not taking anything away from me by remaking something that I love.
Mulan, that's taken a lot away from everybody.
No. Mulan actually looks more like the actual mythology of Mulan. The actual story.
There's no Mushu. There's no
because
Shang.
There's no Mushu in
There's
the
no
actual...
Shang. There's no music.
Mushu was brought in by Disney. That was not part of the Mulan thing.
I don't care.
This one.
You know what? Fine. I could live without having Mushu, but there's gonna be no music and there's no Shang.
Okay, because they're going for a more serious tone. They're going for...
Don't care.
They're making kind of a war movie.
I won't watch it.
But this is the interesting thing to me, because this is just another one of the Disney movies, of the Disney remakes, that has been panned. We'll call it, that has been given harsh treatment by the critics. The only one of the Disney... There's only been a couple of the Disney remakes that have gotten good critical reviews. Beauty and the Beast and The Jungle Book. And those are the only...
because they usually suck.
Off the top of my head, those are the only two I can think of. I liked Dumbo. Dumbo did not get a good rating. Let's see, what are some of the other...
Cinderella.
Maleficent did not get a good rating. I think Cinderella got a decent critic rating. I don't think it got great. The Jungle Book has been the highest because the Jungle Book actually went and got into the 90s. Audience score, though, 89%.
Yeah,
audiences love this.
That's all that really matters to me.
But, again, I can see, from a fan, you're going to like this.
Because this is a movie, the people that were in that theater were people around our age, in their early to mid-20s, and people that were bringing their kids. So the people our age, this is a nostalgic throwback for them.
Yeah, so we don't want...
we don't want a bunch of stuff changed.
But as a critic, if you're looking at it from a critical point of view...
No, I get that.
So I think this movie is justified with its audience score and its critic score.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to me. But guys, I want to know what your thoughts are on it. What did you think? Have you seen The Lion King? I hope you have. I hope you've gotten a chance to see it. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What score would you give it? Let me know down in the comment section below. And make sure and leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for Z the Pirate Girl for showing up.
No problem.
Doing this review with me. It was awesome. It was great. And also, again, make sure you go and check out the Facebook page, Fan of Steel, or @TheRealFanOfSteel. And until next time, guys, keep geeking out.